Overtraining is one of these things that can actually kill your gains in the worst case scenarios, but in most scenarios, it can hinder gains significantly. Basically, you will go and train today, tomorrow, you will take care of your diet to some extent, you will sleep a bit, but if you will be overtrained, you will not make as much muscle as you can. You will waste some time, and doing less in some cases is good. If you are consistently tired in your workout, both systematically or muscularly, you just can't bother to get to failure, to train hard. You just can't do it, you can't bother. If you are like that to some extent, then you might be overreaching. But before that, before I go over how you make sure that you don't overreach, and if you overreach, how you stop overreach, let's go over why it occurs, so we'll actually understand the problem. There are two components to it. The first one is stress, the second one is recovery. So essentially, it is about the time that you are stressed versus the time that you recovered, that you are low on stress. Most people who are overtrained experience way more stress than recovery. And that's the thing, it is about the balance between the two. If there was no upper limit for recovery, we would essentially be able to train every day, right, pretty damn hard on the same muscles consistently. But because of the fact that there is a limit for recovery, a daily limit, we can do so. And that's the thing. If you are overtrained, right, it's either because you don't rest enough or you're just doing too much. Before I go over the 3 ways in which you can get rid of this over fatigue and get back to making a lot of progress in your training, I need you to realize one thing. Relaxation is absolutely important. Chronic stress can kill your gains to some extent because of the sheer amount of fatigue that it induces. But there is one activity that if you ignore, that if you don't prioritize, if you don't take care of, you might kill your gains significantly. Now, I don't like to be using the fucking term kill your gains. If you do that, you won't gain any muscle, generally. But with this activity, it is so important that I think that using this term is like necessary. And it is sleep. If you don't sleep enough is about sleeping until you are fully recovered, then you are making a mistake. Now, you can notice that I didn't say 7 to 9 hours or 10 hours of sleep or anything like that. I just said until you are fully recovered, because each person needs a different amount of sleep, and that's one thing that... So it is subjective to some extent, but the general recommendation of 7 to 9 hours is pretty damn sweet. And some people just don't know what fully recovered is, because there's another point. We get used to like being stressed when we are stressed, we get used to being not recovered when we are not recovered, and we get used to being fully recovered when we are fully recovered. And we usually tend to just perceive this state as baseline, and because of that, just get used to it, right? If you sleep 6 to 7 hours per night and you're not making a lot of progress in the gym and you are constantly fatigued in the gym, then that's the first thing out of the 3 that I want you to do. The first thing, the most important thing, that before doing the next things you need to do, it is to sleep more. And with it, it is about also resting more in general. It is about experiencing less stress. Now, I know life is stressful. There are 2 states in our bodies, fight or flight, and rest and digest. When we get into fight or flight, it's because of a stressor, but then we get into it and we state it for around 90 seconds. Not exactly, there is a degree of genetic variation for sure, an individual variation in general, but after a set amount of time, the body essentially, right, asks itself whether it should stay in this state or just get back into rest and digest, into low stress. If the answer is yes, it just stays there, it's because of an external stimulus, it stays there. And then as it stays there, it takes a lot of energy from the body to stay there, and it can cause a lot of fatigue. And if it does not stay there, if you are not constantly exposed to stressful stuff, to bad news, to the fucking news by themselves, to work, right? You need to be exposed to this state, you need to be in it for hours even, right? Sometimes. But the thing is that it should be balanced with some rest and digest. And that's the first thing. If you are constantly stressed, chronically stressed, then that might be the reason why. You need to do more relaxing stuff and you need to get rid of this toxic feedback loop. So it is also a feedback loop. When we get into fight or flight, we are more likely to stay there, and the moment that we get out of there, the friction that it takes to get back to there is higher. And that's when practices like meditation. Now the second thing, and it is more important by a pretty long shot, and it is one thing that I don't think that a lot of people understand, but it is about the calorie balance and protein that you eat. So it is about recovery, but not about sleep, the other aspect of it, diet. If you don't eat enough calories and protein throughout your days, if you are on a calorie deficit, right, not enough calories in relation to how many calories you burn, and not enough protein in relation to how much protein you need per day, then that might be one reason to why you don't recover fast enough. Calories play a pretty big role in recovery. And that's why on a cut, you should not necessarily reduce training volume, but you should experience more fatigue. So that's one thing. And then the protein is the building block of muscle. If you don't supply your body with enough protein, then its process of rebuilding the muscle tissue gets hindered, right? When it is hindered, you experience less recovery. And then there is the third thing, and it is when you tick these two boxes off, you need enough calories, protein, and you sleep enough, and you manage your stress to a pretty decent extent, and it is about training volume and intensity. It might be just that you train too much. It might be for this reason, that's why you're overtrained, and that's what you need to do. If you sleep enough, right? If you take care of the recovery first, is to reduce either volume or intensity. So I would really suggest that you start by cutting down the amount of sets that you do. So instead of doing like 10 sets for chest per workout, try to do 7. Still take some of them to failure, right? Or try to get a bit less close to failure, so proximity of 1 or 2, but still do them and still train pretty intensely, because it is very important for hypertrophy. And then if it doesn't work, then try to reduce intensity even more for some sets, but still have a rough idea. So take one set to failure, just so you don't lose the idea of what it is. And that's essentially it. If you enjoyed this video, you can subscribe. If you wanna get free stuff, link in the description. Bye.